Welcome, seeker of truth. You have wandered far through questions, through doubts, perhaps through lifetimes. But now you are here, not by accident, but by alignment. Tonight, I invite you to open the inner gate where silence speaks and the invisible becomes real. This is not merely a story, it is a remembering. The ancient fire within you is waiting to rise, and so we begin. Part 1. The Whisper Beneath the Skin. Have you ever paused in the stillness of night, when the world sleeps, and felt a strange pull in your spine? A quiet hum, a ripple beneath your skin, as if something ancient was breathing inside you, waiting. Most people dismiss this sensation. They chalk it up to stress, tiredness, or imagination. But you felt it, didn't you? And you wondered, what if there's more to me than I've been told? That whisper, subtle yet persistent, is the first knock of Kundalini energy. Not a myth, not a fantasy, but a living force embedded in your being since before you had a name. In the sacred texts of India, she is known as Kundalini Shakti, the coiled serpent, the sleeping goddess, the key to divine awareness. But she exists across all cultures, hidden behind symbols and stories, waiting to be remembered. She is the breath behind your breath, the fire under your spine, the electric current of consciousness that, when awakened, does not just change your life, it dissolves who you thought you were. Let us walk slowly, carefully. This is no tale of instant miracles. It is a deep initiation, and only those with the courage to see beyond the surface will understand. Kundalini begins as potential, pure, coiled, silent. She resides at the base of the spine, wrapped 3.5 times like a serpent around the root chakra, Muladhara. This image is not poetic metaphor, it is spiritual anatomy. Just as blood flows through veins, Kundalini rests in the subtle channels of your energy body, unseen but potent. And when the time is right, through devotion, meditation, breathwork, suffering, surrender, or even spontaneously, she stirs. It begins with warmth, or a jolt, or a deep inner knowing, and nothing is ever the same again. But before we speak of her awakening, we must understand her origins. For Kundalini is not just personal, it is universal. Part 2. The Ancient Pulse of the Universe. To understand Kundalini, we must travel, not across lands, but through time. Back to the mist-veiled temples of ancient India, where sages sat in silence, eyes closed, spines straight, listening not with ears, but with their soul. Long before the world was mapped, before science had words for atoms or energy, these seekers mapped the inner cosmos. What they found was not superstition, but structure. A sacred architecture within the human body, 7 spinning wheels of energy, called chakras, invisible to the eye, but felt by the spirit. At the base of this energetic ladder rests the coiled goddess, Kundalini. Above her, 7 gates, each chakra a doorway, each one linked to a part of your existence: survival, emotion, power, love, truth, intuition, and the crown of divine knowing. The journey of Kundalini is the sacred ascent through these gates. She rises not to conquer, but to unify, to awaken each part of you that has forgotten its divine origin. But here is a secret. India was not alone. In the quiet scrolls of Taoism, there are whispers of internal alchemy, of a force called Qi that rises from the lower dantian up the spine. In the mysteries of ancient Egypt, symbols like the winged serpent and the ankh point to a hidden energy flowing through the body. The caduceus of Hermes, the staff entwined by serpents, is not medical, it is mystical. Even in Christianity, though the language changes, the mystics spoke of inner fire, of divine ecstasy, of light descending into the body and transforming it. Saint Teresa of Avila described an experience where her soul was pierced by divine love, her body trembling with joy and fire. Sound familiar? Across cultures, continents, and centuries, the same story repeats. A hidden force, a rising energy, a union with something far beyond the self. Some called it spirit, some prana, others ruach, pneuma, sekam, chi. But the rhythm is always the same, a dormant pulse within, waiting to rise and awaken the soul. This is not coincidence, this is proof. Proof that Kundalini is not Indian, not religious, not cultural. She is human. A cosmic key placed in every being, waiting to unlock what we truly are. And when she rises, it is not subtle. Part 3. The moment she stirs, it often begins without warning. A flicker of heat behind the navel, a shiver racing up the spine, a tingling between the brows, or sometimes just an unshakable feeling that something is shifting. You look the same, speak the same, but inside, the ground begins to tremble. This is the moment she stirs. Kundalini does not knock politely. She moves like a wave rising in the ocean, like fire licking the edges of dry wood. The body may twitch, vibrate, or sway. Spontaneous postures may emerge, your hands forming mudras, your spine arching, breath deepening as if something greater has taken over. Some say it feels like love, too vast to name. Others, like lightning cracking through the soul. And some feel nothing at first, only to realize days later that their entire perception has shifted. You may begin to hear subtle sounds during meditation, a hum, a ring, or a frequency that seems to come from nowhere. Light dances behind closed eyes, colors become more vivid, synchronicities follow you. The world starts speaking a language only you understand. But as the energy rises, it also purifies. Emotions you thought were long gone return with force. Anger, grief, joy, ecstasy. Childhood wounds may resurface. Forgotten memories flash like lightning through your mind. You may cry for no reason, or laugh or tremble. This is not madness. This is clearing. Kundalini is a sacred flame. And like all fire, it does not discriminate. It burns what is ready to be transformed. Your sleep changes, your appetite shifts, your senses heighten. You may crave solitude, or find yourself overwhelmed in crowds. You may feel energy moving through your body in spirals, pulses, or heat waves. And your heart begins to crack open. Compassion pours out. You feel connected to people, to animals, to trees, to stars. The boundaries between you and everything else blur. You begin to sense the divine not as a concept, but as a presence, a living force humming through all of existence. But beware, this rising is not always gentle. Part 4, the fire and the shadow. No fire burns without consuming something. And Kundalini, she is fire, not metaphor, not symbol. Fire, real, sacred, consuming. A force that does not ask for permission but demands transformation. Many who seek her do so chasing light, visions, bliss, power. But what they do not realize is that she is not here to entertain the ego. She is here to burn it. When Kundalini awakens in an unprepared vessel, the experience can shift from divine to disorienting. The same current that brings ecstasy can bring collapse. Emotions rise too fast. Old traumas resurface with violence. The body trembles uncontrollably. The mind spirals. Some call it madness. The mystics call it initiation. Because to be remade, you must be unmade. The nervous system struggles to hold the voltage. Headaches, pressure in the skull, sleeplessness. Some feel like they're dying. Others fear they're losing their mind. The truth is, you're losing who you were. Your identity, your illusions, your control. And that's terrifying. Relationships may fall apart. Careers may lose meaning. Your lifestyle may suddenly feel foreign. You may feel isolated, misunderstood, lost between worlds. This is what some call a spiritual emergency. It is not a failure. It is a sign that the fire is working. But without proper support, teachers, grounding, spiritual community, it can feel like drowning. This is why the old traditions always emphasized preparation, not out of fear but respect. They taught that the body must be clean, the heart open, the mind quiet, the spine strong, and the soul willing. Without that, the energy has no clear path. It rises too quickly, hits blocks, and erupts. That's when people report visions that overwhelm, voices that confuse, surges of energy that feel violent rather than loving. Kundalini is not dangerous, but awakening her recklessly is. This is not a path for thrill seekers. This is sacred ground, not a race, not a trend, but an alchemical process that burns away everything false, so that what is real may finally rise. There is a reason so few complete this path. The light is beautiful, but the shadow must be faced, and in that shadow, everything you are not will scream as it dies. But once you pass through that fire, something else emerges. Part 5, the gift of awakening. What remains after the fire is not what you were. It is what you truly are, stripped of false identities, freed from inherited beliefs, unburdened by the weight of ego. You rise, not as someone new, but as someone real. When Kundalini flows harmoniously, something miraculous begins to unfold. Peace descends like mist on a quiet lake. You no longer react to life, you respond. You no longer chase meaning, you live it. Chaos may still exist outside, but inside there is stillness. A silence that is not empty, but full of awareness, full of presence, full of you. The mind becomes sharp like a blade that cuts through illusion. Thoughts become clear, purposeful. Intuition sharpens. You begin to sense things before they happen, not with fear, but with knowing. As if life is whispering its secrets directly into your being. Your breath deepens, your body feels lighter. Food nourishes you differently. You sleep not because you're exhausted, but because you're restoring. You begin to listen to your body, not just its hunger, but its wisdom. And in turn, the body listens to you. Your heart, it no longer fears to break. It breaks wide open. And in that opening, love flows, not the kind you grasp, but the kind that radiates. You no longer love as a verb, but as a state of being. Compassion becomes instinct. Forgiveness becomes natural. You begin to see others not as threats or roles, but as mirrors, and sometimes as reflections of your own past pain, now healed. Creativity blossoms, not just in art, but in living. Ideas come like rivers, words, images, songs, insights. You feel yourself as a channel through which life expresses itself, freely, joyfully, without effort. You are no longer seeking, you are being. And in that being there is sacred purpose. Not a mission you create with your mind, but a current that pulls your soul. You find yourself drawn to teach, to heal, to build, to serve, not for status or recognition, but because it feels right, aligned, true. This is the secret gift of awakening. It doesn't give you power, it returns you to your truth. And that truth is quiet, humble, radiant. You don't walk through life shouting your transformation. You walk with light in your eyes, and people feel it. You become a presence, a frequency, a gentle reminder to others of something they too have forgotten, their divine essence. But the journey does not end here, because Kundalini is not a destination. She is a dance, a rhythm, a living current. And the more you honor her, the more she reveals. Part 6. The language of symbols. Kundalini doesn't speak in words, she speaks in symbols. Long before you felt her, she was already whispering, in dreams, in patterns, in ancient symbols that crossed your path without coincidence. The spiral, the serpent, the tree, the rising sun. These are not random, they are codes. The serpent, perhaps the most misunderstood of them all, feared in stories, demonized in religions, but in esoteric wisdom the serpent is sacred. She slithers close to the earth, sensitive to vibration, yet deadly precise in direction. Her movement is pure intention. Her power lies in shedding skin, dying to the old self so the new can emerge. This is the very path of Kundalini, the spiral found in galaxies, hurricanes, fingerprints. It is the shape of awakening. It doesn't rise in a straight line, but in cycles. You revisit the same wounds, but each time from a higher vantage. This is evolution, not escape, but transcendence through return. The tree, roots in the dark, branches toward the light. Your energy moves the same. Kundalini rises only as high as you are grounded. Without roots, the light burns. With roots, it nourishes. And the sun, symbol of consciousness. The crown chakra, illumination. When Kundalini reaches the top, it merges you with solar clarity. A state of being where you don't just see the truth, you become it. When your awakening begins, these symbols will find you. In dreams, in books, on the street, the universe speaks through synchronicity. Pay attention, because symbols are not decoration, they are doorways. Decode them, and the next phase begins. Part 7. Guardians and Traps. Every sacred path has guardians, but not all guardians stand with swords and blessings. Some appear as mirrors, some as temptations, and the most cunning of all appears as your own voice. Kundalini's awakening is not just a surge of energy, it is a confrontation with illusions, with the hidden motives behind your seeking, with every false light that promises transcendence but delivers deeper bondage. The greatest trap on the path is not fear, it is spiritual ego. You feel energy, you see visions, you hear messages. People start to notice your light. They call you gifted, sensitive, divine. And if you are not vigilant, a new identity forms, one even stronger than the one you left behind. I am awakened. The words sound noble, but the vibration beneath them is dangerous. Kundalini's real work is not to inflate you, but to dissolve you. If you use her power to elevate your image, your persona, your superiority, you're not rising, you're circling, stuck in a new layer of illusion, this time gilded in light. This is the role of the guardians. They test not your power, but your humility. Do you still need attention to feel worthy? Do you seek recognition or truth? Can you carry the light without needing to shine it in others' eyes? The guardians are internal. They are the parts of you that whisper, "You're more special now. You've gone further than others. You know what others don't." They speak sweetly, seductively, and if you believe them, Kundalini stops rising, not as punishment, but as protection. She waits until the ego burns again, because true awakening is not what you gain, It's what you're willing to lose. Your false crowns, your masks, even the sacred titles. Only then can you wear light without shadow. Part 8, the sacred preparation before the awakening. There is the calling. And before the calling becomes a flame, there is the ground, the sacred preparation that holds the fire without being consumed. Kundalini is not a force to summon lightly. She does not bend to desire or impatience. She rises when the vessel is ready, not when the ego demands. And that readiness is cultivated. The body must be honored first, not worshipped for its form, but respected for its function. It is the temple, the conductor. Begin with purification, not as punishment but as refinement. Eat simply, cleanly, lightly, not from guilt but from awareness. The less your system struggles with toxins, the more it can. Movement matters. Not just exercise but conscious motion. Yoga, Tai Chi, even slow, intentional walking. Move like your body is sacred, and it will become sacred. The breath is the doorway. Most people breathe to survive. But when you learn to breathe to awaken, everything changes. Pranayama, ancient breathwork, is not a technique. It is a bridge. Each inhale is an invitation, each exhale a surrender. Learn to extend the breath, balance it, hold it, and you will begin to feel the subtle currents before they roar. Silence is next. In a world screaming for your attention, silence is your rebellion. Sit with yourself, every day, even for 10 minutes. No distraction, no device, just presence. In that quiet, the noise within begins to settle. And once the mind slows, the soul speaks. Journaling helps, not to perform, but to reflect. Write what arises. Dreams, fears, memories, patterns. Let the unconscious bleed into ink. The more you see yourself clearly, the fewer shadows Kundalini must expose later. Emotional healing is vital. You cannot climb with broken legs. You cannot hold light with a shattered heart. Face your wounds, sit with them, let them cry, let them scream, and then let them go. Therapy, shadow work, forgiveness, whatever it takes, do it. Not for the past, but for the path ahead. And finally, humility. Not the posture of the weak, but the power of the wise. A humble heart is open, teachable, aligned, and only in that softness can the serpent rise. You do not prepare to control Kundalini. You prepare to meet her with reverence, with clarity, with trust, because she will only rise for those who are grounded enough to carry the sky. Part 9. The dance beyond awakening. What happens after you awaken? Not just in visions or in deep meditations, but in Monday mornings, in traffic, in heartbreak, in dishes to wash and deadlines to meet. True awakening is not what happens on the mountain, it's what carries down into the valley. Kundalini does not stop rising once she reaches your crown. She begins to weave into your thoughts, your emotions, your choices, into your relationships, your creations, your silences. She becomes a presence, not separate, not above, but within. This is where the dance begins. At first, it's disorienting. The world still functions as before, but you no longer do. You can't gossip anymore, can't lie easily, can't pretend. The old games no longer thrill you. You smile, but something in you watches the performance from afar. You begin to speak slower, breathe deeper. You listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. You feel the pain behind someone's anger. You hear the fear beneath someone's judgment, and instead of reacting, you hold space. You become gentler, but not weaker, softer, but clearer. You no longer chase love, you become it. And in becoming it, you draw people into your field. Some stay, some leave. You let them go, because now you know, nothing leaves you that is truly part of you. Work changes, not always externally, but your why changes. You no longer strive to prove, you create to serve, to share, to remind. Money still matters, but meaning matters more. You become aware of what you build, what you consume, what you amplify. Even pain becomes sacred. You no longer see challenges as curses, but as invitations. You stop asking, why me, and start whispering, what is this teaching me? And in that shift, you stop being a victim of life. You become a participant in the divine choreography. This is the dance beyond awakening. Not a dance of perfection, but of presence. Not a life without chaos, but a life that knows how to move through it with grace. You may still fall, but you fall consciously. You may still feel anger, but it burns clean. You may still fear, but you no longer obey it. Kundalini doesn't make you superhuman. She makes you authentically human, divinely flawed, wholly alive, deeply aligned. This is where magic begins to settle, not in flashes of light, but in morning tea, in quiet smiles, in the pause before you speak. in the space between heartbeats. Because when she lives in you, everything becomes sacred. Parts closing the circle. So here you are, not at the end of a story, but at the threshold of a new way of being. You have heard the whispers, felt the fire, danced with shadows, embraced the light. And somewhere between the breath you took then and the breath you take now, you have changed. But awakening is not an achievement. It is a remembering. You are not becoming divine. You have always been. Kundalini is not a force you control. She is a truth that reveals. She does not come because you seek her. She awakens because a part of you finally stopped running. And in that stillness, in that silence, in that surrender, you opened. You opened not just your energy, but your story, your wounds, your wonder, your willingness to live a life that is not small or safe or scripted, but sacred. And now the question is not what happens next. The question is, who will you become now that you remember? Will you return to the old masks, or will you live unveiled? Will you follow the echo of your soul or the noise of the world? Will you let this fire pass through you like a storm, or will you tend to it gently, patiently, until it becomes a sun within? Kundalini is not the end of the journey. She is the invitation to rise, to root, to return, to walk this world not as a seeker, but as a flame. So take this energy, take this knowing, take this light, and live it. Not loudly, but fully, because somewhere, someone will feel your presence and remember their own.